I'm Mike Darda.
And I'm Andrew Darda. And together, we're the founding agents for the Compass Real Estate Office in Cape Coral, Fort Myers, and the Beaches.
With over 31 years experience selling real estate right here in Southwest Florida, we've had the privilege of helping over 4,000 families buy or sell their slice of sunshine. Well, here we are, Andy. It's April 2025. We're in the height of season, and buyers are out there. Sellers are certainly hoping to get their homes sold before the end of season. We get questions all through season from both buyers and sellers. So we're going to go through some of those that we're getting the most today to hopefully answer questions that some of our viewers have.
Yep. You've got questions. We're hoping to give you the answers.
Yep. So let's start with the one I hear the most, and that is interest rates. Seems like everybody's been waiting for 2 years for something to happen, for rates to come down, but they just been kind of stubbornly hanging out, haven't they?
Yeah. What do you think some of the contributing factors are?
Well, there's economic uncertainty to be sure, and there's also inflationary concerns, and that is just not allowing rates to move. They're currently 6.7% right now. They are projected to kind of remain around that the rest of this year. Fannie Mae's projection is actually 6% by the end of the year, and I think 6.5% by the end of next year. Obviously, there's a lot that can change that, but historically, folks might need to think about, over the last 50 years, rates have averaged 7.8%.
Wow.
So we're still below that average, and since rates aren't going to change, it really boils down to, how long are you going to pause whatever plans you have in your life around interest rates?
That's true. That's true. Yeah, at some point, I think buyers and sellers have to move on, and they can't wait an eternity for rates to make their decision for them. So, historically, we're still below what rates have been for the last 50 years. So that's good news. Bad news, they're probably going to be with us for a while, it sounds like. Yeah,
so it's just a matter of, kind of accepting the fact that this is what the rates are going to be for a while, and make your life plans accordingly. Life can't wait around an interest rate for some people. Others maybe it can. Which kind of brings up a question a lot of sellers have, and that is, should we sell now, or maybe because of market conditions, should we wait? What are your thoughts on that?
So I get that question, it feels like every day from sellers, and even buyers asking. A lot of times based on rates and costs. So should we wait? Well, we're expecting more of the same in terms of rates. Our market follows the rates pretty closely. So if the rates aren't changing, our market's probably not changing. And if you look back at cycles in the marketplace, especially here in the Gulf Coast in Southwest Florida, our market tends to go through multi-year cycles. So this isn't something that's just going to fix itself in a matter of months or correct itself possibly even a year or a couple of years. It could take longer than that. So if you're making decisions and one of your thoughts are, should I wait? You might be waiting a while. So if you've got something that's driving you to a destination, a job, closer to family, it's economical and financial, taxes, insurance, something has risen and it's just becoming less affordable to live here. Consider the fact that you may have to wait years to see a different market than the one we're in right now.
Yeah, so there's technically they say there's 4 phases to a market. There's there's the expansion phase, where all of a sudden buyers are flooding into the marketplace, and we're in a buyer's market. Then of course builders see that, sellers look at it as an opportunity to cash in. So now they start putting property on the market, and we have what they call a hyper supply market, which is a little bit kind of like what we're in now. Inventory has just grown to this over a year supply of homes right now. After that, then there's a cycle they refer to as a recessionary cycle in the home market, which means prices are declining due to oversupply. And then it starts to shift into a recovery phase where buyers start coming back in, and then we start that whole process over again. So typically those cycles could last 18 to 20 years. Historically, our last upcycle here was the pandemic relocations of 2020 through 2022 and 3, maybe more 2022. Then if you look back, when was the last upcycle before that? It was like 2024, 2025. Right there, you're like, what, 18 years or so. Yeah. So it is a multi-year wait decision. If you make that decision, you better be prepared that we're 2 years into this cooling trend. Low rates are gone. They're not projected to come back, and the pandemic relocations are over. So, it's a multi-year hold, isn't it?
Yeah. And looking at the last 18, 20 years, I've been doing this for 18 years. It certainly felt that way. I've only participated in 18 years of doing real estate here in the Gulf Coast. One of these upcycles, one of these just crazy frenzy, prices are going up, buyers are jumping into the market. It's a heyday for sellers. The only time I've enjoyed that as a realtor in 18 years, was during COVID and all that pandemic buying frenzy. So when I joined real estate 18 years ago, it was at the bottom of that last upcycle.
I often think, I started in a down cycle too in 1988, 89. That was a recessionary cycle. You went right head into the perfect storm when we had the Great Recession, right? The 2008, 9, 10 era. So I think it's an advantage to be a realtor and start a down market, because you learn how to sell in one of the toughest markets there are out there, right? So a lot of people get in when it's good, and then when it shifts like this, they get out. But the ones that have been through these cycles have the chops to know how to handle it. I'm looking at the inventory, and you mentioned when you started. That reminds me that today we've got over a year's supply of homes. But back in 2008, 9, 10, I remember there was actually double the number of homes for sale than there are today.
I remember that.
Yeah, so this is nothing like that. So
I also remember something else. Not only did we have double the inventory, we had the prices were like a quarter of what they are right now. I remember when I got into real estate, you could buy a home for under $100,000.
Right. So what does that tell you? It might be a great time to be a buyer now, because we're going to look back and say, we all look back and say, gosh, we wish we bought more homes then at that time.
I wish I would have bought every home I showed a buyer.
Right, exactly, be your own best customer.
Yeah, I'd be retired right now.
So it's worth mentioning, so there's obviously a buyer's market. That's what we had back in 2020, 21, 22. Low inventory, less than a 3-month supply of homes. Prices were going up. More buyers than actually sellers out there. There's still some markets up north that experience that, but not here now. There's a neutral market where you have maybe 4 to 5 months supply. Prices aren't going up or down. It's a balanced market. And then there's, of course, that buyer's market where there's more sellers than buyers to buy. And that's what we're in now. And that's usually anything like 6 months or more. But here we are. Our market stats from our board of realtors for April 1st actually say we have almost a 14-month supply of homes. So we are, seriously in a buyer's market. But that's a great opportunity for buyers right now, isn't it?
Yeah. And I don't think the secret's out. Agents have certainly picked up on this. Lenders and every other vendor in real estate, buyers seem to know. I mean, even if they don't know the stat, they just open up their favorite app, Realtor.com, Zillow, Trulia, and they see it looks like everything's for sale.
So why is that? I know when I look at, I get calls from sellers wanting to sell, and you look at when they bought the house, and it seems like a huge chunk of them just bought it in the last 2 years. Why do you think that is, that people are selling so quickly after purchasing at the peak of the market?
Yeah, so this is maybe less of a question our viewers have asked and more of a question I've kind of asked of myself or asked of the market. And doing a little research, you can look back at what has transpired in the last 3-4 years to cause so many sellers to jump into the market, sell their home, it seems like right after buying it. And you think back in the last 3-4 years, buyers jumped in here from out of state, and a lot of times they came here by themselves or with their family, but their friends and family were somewhere up north, so they missed their family, they're going back home. We've got a lot of people who moved here for job relocation or for work from home opportunities. Well, a lot of those jobs are calling them back home. And then you've got 3 hurricanes, you've got the rising costs of insurance, taxes, just about anything you can think of to maintain and keep a home or a condo have gone up. And speaking of condos, HOA dues and HOA fees have gone up. So I think it's not one, but the combination of a lot of those factors for a lot of folks that have caused them to rethink their purchase in Southwest Florida.
Yeah. So that they moved here probably kind of quickly, and now, so it does make sense that they would move out quickly if they had a change. What about sellers that are saying, hey, with all that's going on, maybe prices are lower than I'm comfortable to sell. Should I rent the property out? I mean, I get that question every week from sellers. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I get that question from sellers considering to sell. I get that from sellers that we're helping even sell their property as they're trying to navigate the marketplace. And the rental market is very reminiscent of the sales market. The two kind of go hand in hand, right? So if one is soft, the other is soft. If one's hot, the other one's hot. So right now, since a lot of sellers have been unable to sell their homes and they've pivoted to plan B, what do you think the plan B for everybody has been?
Right.
Put it on the rental market. So what happens to the rental market? It gets flooded with rental inventory, which becomes a more competitive environment, drives rental prices down. It's kind of like a buyer's market for rentals. So your plan B might be very reminiscent of your plan A. So then you've got to decide, is it better, do I want to sell or do I want to rent? If both are going to be kind of the same, which one do I prefer?
Right, because you're still probably talking that multi-year deal, and then top it off, like you mentioned, supply and demand is still at play. So more rentals has driven rents down. I know, for example, homes that I saw were renting for $3,000 or even $3,200 are now renting at like $2,500, $2,800.
What do you think that is? So what do you think is adding to this when it comes to an annual rental or even a vacation rental? Because we've got that option too in our market.
Yeah, you got the two options. So the vacation rentals are soft because of, in part, the hurricanes, right? So hurricanes, beaches are still recovering, Sanibel, Fort Myers Beach, all that. And as a result, less demand for vacation rental homes here. They got other places they can do vacation rentals besides Lee County. And as a result, those homeowners are seeing less revenue. At the same time, they're seeing an increase in taxes and insurance, for example, especially if they have flood insurance. So that has caused a lot of our inventory growth has actually been people that had vacation rentals saying, no, I'm going to put it on the market and sell it.
So that's interesting. You've got rentals joining the market to sell, and then you've got sellers trying to sell their homes thinking maybe I should pivot and rent. So
exactly, yeah. And then so the other thought is, okay, I'll do a long-term rental, an annual. So that's that number I mentioned earlier, is that annual number of, like, say, 2,600, I think, is about the average in Lee County right now. And the problem again there is, there's a lot more of them on the market, not to mention all these apartment buildings that are coming online. So you got to think, if you're going to rent, you really got to do the math. Okay, what's this going to rent for? Get a good property manager to give you a realistic amount. Know that amount could drop a little bit more if this market continues in the direction it is. In the meantime, realize this: you're going to have your mortgage payment if you have a mortgage. You're going to have insurance. If you have flood insurance and a mortgage, there's a good chance you may not cash flow, because insurance is eating a lot of your profit up. You're also going to potentially lose your homestead if you have a homestead exemption, so you got to plan for those taxes to go up, and then also, of course, plan for management fees if you're going to not self-manage.
Gotcha. That's really important. I think there's a lot of those things that folks think about, or even potential sellers who are potentially looking to rent think about, and then there's a lot of them that they miss, and homestead's probably a big one. The fact that you're going to lose that, your taxes are going to go up.
And then if you're not so much with vacation rentals, but long-term, remember, that house ain't going to look quite as pretty as it did when you lived there after it's been a rental for a few years. So there may be some renovation costs just to get it back on the market. Now, another big story out there is price reductions. We've made top 5 lists in the country as markets that have the most price reductions. Is that here to stay for a while? Is that something that you see subsiding? What were your thoughts there?
Yeah, so obviously these are records we don't want and stories we prefer not to have written about in our marketplace. But the fact of the matter is, if you are a seller in today's market and you have some real drive, some real motivation to do something and go somewhere else, get your home sold, what are you going to do? And if the market is what the market is, and it's forcing you to reduce, you're going to reduce. If you have to speed up the timetable to get to a destination, a job, get closer to family, or maybe even it's just selling the home before hurricane season starts back up, you're going to adjust your price to attract buyers to your home. And, I think in our market, there's more sellers of that mindset all doing the same things at the same time. So you're going to continue to see more price reductions from the motivated sellers in order to get their home sold.
Yeah, I mean, and that is what we're seeing. I think we saw a very high number, about 10,000 price reductions last month in March, in February, and then March we had about 11,500. So
they're increasing.
There's definitely more price reductions. I'm sure some of that's people trying to sell before the end of season, so they don't carry it through another off season. But you're right. If it's the sellers that are driving the market are the ones that have a definite reason to sell and a time frame they have to do it by, they're going to continue to adjust their price until it's sold, period. And that's, of course, the ones the buyers are picking off. And the last, as long as the inventory is high, we're going to see that downward pressure. But one nice thing is I've seen the last 5 or 6 weeks, the increasing inventory has actually been kind of stable. It's like been hanging out at a relatively stable number of homes on the market, not continuing to build. So that hopefully is a beginning of some kind of trend.
Yeah, hopefully we're seeing a stabilization with the inventory, and that will help with the recovery process.
Recently, you did a TV news interview for a new local news channel on the condo market. Share with us, what did you learn in your research about the condo market, both from a buyer and a seller perspective?
Yeah, very cool opportunity to do that. I think it's going to be airing here pretty soon, but did a lot of research and preparation for it, and kind of, I walked away from it feeling optimistic, and I'll tell you why. So obviously, the market has had its challenges. It has been more challenging for condo owners, it feels like, than single-family homeowners. And but I walked away from that feeling like this is an excellent time. If you're really a condo person and you're looking to buy a condo, this is a great opportunity because you've got choices. It's like walking into a buffet, right? So if you're a condo buyer, you've got choices in every community. You've got choices of every type: townhomes, villas, high rises, mid rises, low rises, waterfront, off water, golf. I mean, it doesn't matter. You've got choices. So it's great to be a buyer. Sellers are negotiable right now. What we're finding is statistically most sellers are willing to negotiate within maybe 5 to 10% from their original asking price or their current asking price when presented with a motivated buyer or real offer. So you can bake in some good equity as a buyer in the future. And the other thing I found interesting is a lot of these condos post-hurricane have been inspected. They've had their newly regulated inspections. They've been repaired. They've had a lot of the mechanics and amenities fixed up and spruced up since the hurricane. So you're almost getting into a nice refurbished condominium or complex that's nicer now than it probably was for the owners 5-10 years ago.
Interesting. Yeah. So it's opportunity time then, if you're a buyer for a condo, for sure.
So the biggest question they asked during the news, okay, I am a condo buyer. I love the opportunity, but how do I keep myself safe when buying a condo? And I think the big fear here is financials, right? Because we've all seen condo fees go up. So, make sure you work with a realtor who's telling you the truth and doing the homework, working for you, getting you the condo riders that are on the MLS during the showings so you can see what the fees are, if there's any special assessments, if there's any known litigation against the community. And if you find one you like, don't just use your inspection period, your due diligence period to inspect the condo. I mean, that takes what, a day? If you've got days in your due diligence period, call up the condo association. Ask them for their financials. Ask them if they're financially solvent. Do your own due diligence. And if you don't know the right questions, get the assistance of your realtor or call a trusted friend or an advisor and find out what you should be asking and what you should be researching. That way you feel comfortable moving forward with the property you purchased.
Right, and that's a right for a buyer, right? They have a right to a certain number of days to inspect all the condo documents and financials, and that's just a Florida law, so that's protected.
It's built in for you. Buyers are protected. So just know what you have and utilize it.
Yeah, cool, good advice. So here we are, April. Again, this is a lot of people think this is one of our last months of season. It is arguably one of the best. I think March and April are the two peak months of season. Buyers are making decisions before heading home, but sales, they don't drop off a cliff typically at the end of April, do they?
No, I think everybody thinks, oh, season's done. But I mean, we see sales continue through April, our height probably, May, June even. So we start to see the sales taper off, but they continue at a strong pace throughout the year.
All right, so it's like a bell curve. So
Yeah.
in a lot of ways, if you look at the sales volume being on the market in May is as good as say February, and June is as good as say January. So you still got some great market left. And then of course, as we get into those summer months, we're transitioning to our local buyers jumping into the market as well.
Yeah.
So a lot of exciting things to look forward to. So if you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We'd be thrilled to answer them. And thanks for watching.
Yep, thanks for tuning in.
We want to help you with all your real estate needs.
Please feel free to call, text, or email with any questions. We'd love to help you find your slice of sunshine here in Southwest Florida.